take. One of my successors in Congress from the state of Arizona, Congressman Paul Gosar. Paul, we welcome you to America's Forum.
Thanks for having me on, JD.
It is important for the chief executive of any state to weigh in with the federal government. Are you in agreement with Governor Jan Brewer with her assessment of the administration refusing to carry out border enforcement?
Absolutely, and I've also taken it a step further, JD, in that they are complicit in violating and are violating the code of alien smuggling. If you look at U.S. Code 1324A1A2, it reads, knowingly or in reckless disregard of the fact that an alien has come to, entered, or remains in the United States in violation of the law, transports or moves or attempts to transport or move such alien within the United States by means of transportation or otherwise, is in furtherance of violation of this law. And that is by each individual act of alien. And we actually sat down with my staff with Homeland Security yesterday and the day before. And for the first time, JD, the most uncomfortable setting, it was actually with armed men from Homeland Security. They could not cite why they had authorization to do this within U.S. Code. So they're also not only facilitating a breaking of the law, but they're also complicit in facilitating further breaking of the law by moving illegal immigrants from Texas to Maryland and Arizona.
Well, Paul, with this situation developing, you, of course, serve on the House Oversight Committee. So, if I'm not mistaken, have you contacted Chairman Issa? Can we expect hearings on this or some action when you return to Capitol Hill to have the oversight and to focus your investigative and oversight attentions, if you will, on what is transpiring with Secretary Jay Johnson and the Department of Homeland Security and the Obama administration overall?
Absolutely. What I did is I took Governor Brewer's letter as well as State Treasurer Doug Ducey's letter and forwarded them on to the chairman of Oversight, Darrell Issa, and the ranking member, Elijah Cummings, as well as John Boehner, Eric Cantor, and all leadership, as well as Judiciary. And it appears that Judiciary is very interested in bringing this forward, and they would have, as you understand, they would actually have precedence to look at this from that issue.
Well,
but we've actually taken that a step further and had a conversation with Congressman Issa, who understands and has been looking at trying to get a hearing in that regard.
Paul, you mentioned the House leadership. Let's speak candidly. Eric Cantor is in the fight of his life. He may be well-financed, but he's facing a challenger who I believe correctly defines the approach that Eric has endorsed as one of amnesty. You've heard the speaker go back and forth on this issue, talk about having a, quote, immigration reform vote. Do you really expect the House leadership to respond to the concerns you put forth in the letters that you forwarded them yesterday?
Well, I absolutely believe they have to, and I've been one of those people that has been forward on this issue. You know, JD, the president's getting bad legal advice, and it's coming from the Attorney General of the United States. I have asked for a vote of no confidence. I have not received that. Well, while over 140 members of Congress have signed and co-sponsored that resolution. Number two is I am now seeking the impeachment of Eric Holder because the president is not getting that good legal advice. We constantly are defying the rule of law. How can leadership stand here and pretend like they're passing laws that mean anything when we're defying the rule of law right and left? I mean, when you look at one of the Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Brandeis, he makes the comment, J.D., in a government of laws, the existence of government will be imperiled if it fails to observe the law scrupulously. If the government becomes a lawbreaker, which it already has, it breeds contempt for law and invites every man to become a law unto himself. It invites anarchy. And so I say, you know, if we cannot have the civil application of the law, it's time for Eric Holder to go, and it's time for leadership to bring up that vote.
Well, considering that Eric Holder seems to have the full-throated confidence of the president, he's not going to go away anytime soon. Congressman Gosar, I actually have a question for you and JD as well. There are reports that this influx of illegal immigrants is going to continue throughout the course of the summer, and the numbers could potentially increase even more so. So this situation needs to be triaged in one way or the other. What do you suggest, Congressman, as a way to deal with it? Do you put them on a bus and send them back across the border, or is there some other means here to deal with this?
Well, I think what we have to have is we have to have the country of Mexico helping us out in this plight, because the border is a two-faced border, but not only with the United States but also with Mexico. So they've got to be able to turn these people around in regards to that application. Number two is, yes, you have to set an example in regards to moving these people back to where they belong. They have no right to be in this country. There's a right way and a wrong way. And what I do believe, though, is it starts with how do we adjudicate and hold somebody responsible for that? And people do not believe that we can impeach Attorney General Eric Holder. I would tend to tell you we can. I think you have a resolution of no confidence and you bring it up and make the attorneys who have active licenses be called to the carpet in regards to that, and send it to the president saying, listen, it's time for him to go, and give him a month, we'll make him go. If he does, start the articles of impeachment, because what ends up happening is that you're going to put the Senate into a quandary. They're going to have to form a judicial application during an election cycle. Elections have consequences, so it's time for those senators to speak up, or other lose their job as an elected official.
Paul, I've got another question for you, but John asked me to answer this as well, so let me offer this. And I think, Paul, you touched on it. There is a tendency in this country to engage in self-flagellation, to be overly critical of our own position. Make no mistake, what is being sold by the dominant media culture, that young moms are bringing their children across the border, that's partially true. But the sad and sorry fact is a lot of kids have been abandoned at the border or put on buses by their parents. And understand what is at work here. It is an attempt, perhaps, and maybe this is something Paul can find out about on the Hill with his investigative powers. From my perspective, it is a position deliberately taken by this administration, the old Cloward Piven approach to overwhelm the system, and then because Americans take a look at children, and we always hear it's for the children, and the dominant media culture will offer the most indulgent explanation for the open borders crowd, they're trying to pull a fast one. The sad thing is there is a humanitarian crisis, but it was not prompted by the United States, and it's far more humanitarian to send the people home, to feed them, get them the medical care they need, and then graciously really reunite parents and families in their country of origin. Paul, before we let you go, Sheriff Joe Arpaio was on this program yesterday. We talked about what was going on at bus stations across Arizona. Here is what Sheriff Joe had to say about the issue. Let's listen to it and get your reaction.
But it really doesn't make sense dumping the kids with no parents and just coming across into our country from Central America and waiting at bus stations. And I hate to say this, but some may be sick. I mean, young kids, this is 110 degrees out today, and where's the medical treatment if they need it? And if they do, they'll be flooding our hospitals, here, emergency rooms right here in Phoenix.
Paul, you are a dentist by training and by profession before going to Congress. When we have orderly immigration, lawful immigration, those would-be immigrants are checked in terms of health. We're not doing any checking on the people who come across the border into this country. We do have a humanitarian crisis, not of our making, but you heard what Sheriff Joe had to say. Given your background in training, how would you respond to the sheriff's observations?
The sheriff is absolutely right. We've seen an influx and a northern movement of bacterial-resistant tuberculosis that is moving through Arizona, moving northward, in which we have very little options in regards to the care of these individuals. This is, as he said, humanitarian. If anything, they have very little water. They're in a country they do not know anything about, and they're just being dumped. And you talk about not looking at the humanitarian plight from this administration to these people. It's inhumane. So it is right that Sheriff Joe highlights exactly the complicit aspects of health that not only impugns these kids and children, but also us as our communities.
Dr. Paul Gosar, Congressman Paul Gosar, the dentist by training, the congressman by ratification of voters in Arizona. We thank you for your time. We look forward to you coming back and visiting with us again real soon here on America's Forum.
Thank you so very much, JD.
All righty. So you hear Paul right there.
Yeah, an interesting point that you're making. This is a humanitarian crisis, but one of the Obama administration's own making.
This is the problem we're having right now, and yet they'll try to manipulate it with a sympathetic media. Then again, we're not the media, we're Newsmax, and this is America's Forum. Coming right back after this timeout.